welcome to Dateline New Haven on WNHH FM. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make New Haven tick. Our guest today is looking to make New Haven tick by giving us a little more democracy in an election year. Choices of people to run when you vote for state representative. Andrea Zola is the Republican candidate for the 96th General Assembly District seat currently held by Roland Lamar, who's running for re-election. He's a Democrat. On the east side of town, Andrea ran a very active campaign for Alder last year. She's running again to give people choice in November. Andrea, welcome to WNHH. So nice to talk with you.
Thank you for having me.
So, Andrea, who are you and why are you running for state office? A lot of people say, I don't want that job. It's not a lot of money.
Well, it's also a very, I would say, giving position. I think anyone in public servant position should be given a lot of credit. But I'm personally running because I think we need diversity. There are not many women in politics at the moment. I think we need more women in leadership seats, and I would like to be one of them.
You know, so funny, say
especially
diversity.
Representing the Republican Party.
You say diversity.
Of course.
In New Haven, the last Republican I can remember in the state legislative office was Krista Pino. If I remember correctly, it was around the late 1990s when he had the seat. So this century, we have not had anyone but a Democrat in representing New Haven at the state legislatures. Does that matter?
That's correct. And when we talk about...
Is that a kind of diversity, and what kind of diversity?
Oh, without a doubt. And when you think about it, let's think about the alders at the moment. How many Republicans are there?
0.
Exactly. We need more diversity. We need people who think differently, who want our city and our state to succeed. And I would definitely be one of those people, and I think I will make a great fit.
All right. So now why this seat? Why not? You ran for Alder.
I ran for Alder. I am now instead the Ward 8 co-chair for the Republican Party, which I've really been enjoying. I've had the pleasure of experiencing being a delegate, which was super fun. Obviously,
are you at the Republican National Convention?
Yeah, not national. This was the delegates for Connecticut.
Oh, for the state nominating.
Yeah, it was really interesting, really fun, a great experience.
When was that?
I'm really into giving the correct data and statistics. I don't know the exact date off the top of my head.
Like U.S. Senator and Congress?
So it's the state delegates. So I'll find the exact date for you, but it was very fun, a great experience. It gave me the opportunity to meet a lot of people in my party, like-minded people, which was very, very nice, very fun. I am running for the state seat because, like I said, I think there needs to be more diversity. We need more women in seats and obviously more Republicans. Right now, I would have to look up the exact number, but the majority of the House is...
Supermajority.
The supermajority are Democrats, and I think it's 1/3 of the full House are women. So
what do we lose when there aren't enough women or there aren't enough people from an opposing party and laws are made? Why does that matter?
It matters because there's a lack of diversity, and that's how I see it. And, a lot of people do ask me why I chose the Republican Party, and I'm very blunt and I'm very honest. I was unaffiliated, which a lot of people find shocking because of my family history in the city. My family were very well-known Democrats, but from the moment that I could register to vote up until when I did run for the Alder seat, I was initially unaffiliated, and I was really unsure of which party I felt represented me, number one, and who I wanted to represent. So I feel like it did take a lot of being involved, getting involved, and gaining a better understanding of both parties before I could make a very confident decision on which party I wanted to be a part of. And at the end of the day, I chose the Republican Party because I do feel like they follow a traditional moral compass. I am raised Catholic. I'm an Italian American, Irish too. I was raised in a Catholic setting. And I feel like the Republican Party was a better fit for me. I do feel like after reviewing my state legislature book that I prefer to fight for affordability a safer community. And these are the things that are important to me, and they reflect the Republican Party best.
We're talking to Andrea Zola, who's the Republican candidate for the 96th General Assembly District seat. So I want to get in a moment to some of those issues like affordability and public safety. I think they tie into who you are. So you have been a small business owner, correct?
Absolutely. So I attended Albertus Magnus at obviously a young age, right out of high school. I initially decided to take a trade course. So right out of high school, before attending Albertus, I decided to take makeup artistry courses, which, you know, it's something super close to my heart and that I loved, and it would allow me to express my artistic abilities. And while practicing makeup artistry and fashion and beauty, I then decided that a business management course at Albertus Magnus was a good fit for me. So I then decided to combine the two, which was great. And at a very young age, at 22, I decided to leave Albertus and open my first small business, which ended up being wildly successful. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic, did not fully survive. A lot of people thought or think I was a hairstylist. I'm not a hairstylist. I give salons and stylists so much credit. They're on their feet around the clock doing colors and cuts. I did not do that. My main focus was makeup artistry, fashion, and beauty. And while in New Haven, because I have a brick and mortar in New Haven, or had, I should say, it was very focused on bridal in Connecticut. But I was also in New York. So right before the pandemic, I was also on the news often doing live segments with WTNH, which were strictly fashion and beauty related. So when I was in the city, it was strictly fashion. And, you know, I really miss it. But I think politics is a much better fit for me. So
you would help people like if they had a wedding coming?
In Connecticut, yes. But when I was in New York, I was also sponsoring New York Fashion Week. I was a key artist behind the scenes for many large shows. So I was working in a very niche industry. Unfortunately, my business partner in the city, who was on a lot of the news interviews with me, passed away. And it really helped me make the decision to move into a different industry, where I then started studying cybersecurity. My first course was with NYU. And during that time, I also made the decision to run full force here into politics. And I think everything happens for a reason, and I think I'm in the right spot.
And so you want to go into cybersecurity for a profession?
So I've been taking cybersecurity courses. Right now, my political career is more important than any career. Right now, cyber awareness in any industry is extremely important.
We had CrowdStrike 2 weeks ago, and I haven't seen the details. There was apparently another outage in Microsoft this morning. Yeah.
You know, there's a difference between an outage and a cyber attack, right? So if we look back to what happened last year at the city, that was a cyber attack. That was someone who attacked the city. They ended up stealing money. That was a cyber attack. What happened with what you're referring to from a couple of weeks ago was, from what I understand...
right. That wasn't an attack. That was malfunction because a piece of software didn't work right.
Correct. Or somebody was entering something incorrectly or wrong, I should say.
Well, obviously, I mean, it's so true that everything from cybersecurity, whether it's attacks or just the potential of a small software malfunction shutting down worldwide air travel and hospitals.
Yeah.
That's an important issue with politics, I would think. I mean,
it's beyond important.
If you're elected, can you think of what you might bring with that interest to state legislation?
It's not even just an interest, because I have the training, and the training was so much fun through NYU. Unfortunately, they're not offering the course anymore right now. I was able to learn everything from the Lockheed Martin kill chain to so on. A lot of people, when they hear cybersecurity, they automatically think, oh, you code. No, coding was not something that I'm interested in. I don't really like coding.
Well, let me ask you what kind of policy you might, or hearings or investigation you might want to do statewide in terms of our state's ability to be cyber secure.
Of course. So, you know, I think a lot of people join these interviews and they come to the table saying, I would do this. I am not a sayer, I'm a doer. That's what I am. I'm a doer. So I've already emailed the city. I've already gone on different news outlets. Actually, one was with New Haven Independent in the news last year when we had the cyber attack. And I really talked about the city creating some sort of cybersecurity task force, right? Because right now everything is outsourced. And I don't think it's a very good idea, in my opinion, to keep outsourcing. I think that cities should have specific task force set in place, right? So I'm a doer. I've already sent an email. I have not gotten a response yet. I plan
so
on
you're kind
sending.
of saying that you're bringing a knowledge base and an interest that you think will be useful.
This is not even just a knowledge. In my opinion,
training,
the city should not only have a task force for cybersecurity, but they should already have a board created, which they do not.
And
So-
I meant at the state level, if you're elected, do you feel that
we're-
expertise will help you when
without
the
a
issue
doubt.
comes up?
Without a doubt, absolutely. And I feel like that would also play into, how things are operating with EV and how things are operating with traffic cameras. These are things that technically rely on computers, right? So cybersecurity is so important. I can talk about cyber for hours, but I know that we have a short time here.
So tell me about you're interested in, you drive an EV?
I do. I drive a Tesla. I don't know how much longer I will have my Tesla. I have had it for 3 years. A lot has been changing at the state level, which I don't know if you've been paying attention to that. I have my notes so that I could give the correct data and statistics, but Connecticut has been following the California standards. I don't know if you know that. And there are the EPA standards. So with so much change happening so rapidly, I may take a step back and buy myself maybe like a used Volvo and wait until the state has more of an idea and decision on how they have EV operating, right? We also had this.
I'm sorry. So what kind of standards do you mean?
So right now they were discussing with the DEEP. There was a ton of different things happening with EV. How they would operate in the future, right? And this is figuratively speaking for the future. And I want to make sure that I am giving the appropriate information. Both parties were discussing at some point if there should be a roadmap, right, for EV. I don't know if you understand what that means, but when you're driving
you mean
something,
like for charging stations or
Exactly.
emission standards or
Exactly. So more so charging, right? So there's just rapid changes happening with EV. And as of right now, I personally do not think we're ready to fully go EV. I do love my car. If I decide to get another one in the future, it will be a Tesla. But as of right now, because of the uncertainty, what the future will be with EV, I'm deciding to take a step back.
And what about the buses? I know that Roland Lamar has been big about promoting electrification of the state bus fleet.
I'd have to be really blunt and really honest here. I think it's an awful idea. And I know that Hayes was also promoting it. And I think that, and this is all my opinion, with the information that we're given with data and statistics, not only do these vehicles cause major issues to the infrastructure because they're heavier, they're made out of specific metals. I just don't think it's a good idea or we are ready for them yet. At this point, I've had my EV for 3 years and we've had one charging station nearby for a very short period of time. And it's made it really difficult for me to travel. If that's an issue right now, it's not.
That's why I never.
It hasn't
we don't
been
buy
figured
cars,
out
but if
yet.
I did, I'd be worried about charging. I see people in my neighborhood who charge in their driveway. They kind of hook it up to their house.
Well, I don't know if you have read articles. I think New Haven Independent did post articles recently in news about the city purchasing a ton of EV vehicles, but then they didn't purchase the chargers.
Yeah. They were sitting there in a lot for months.
Yeah, I can give my opinion all day, but it seems like both parties haven't come to an exact agreement on what will work yet. I would like to be a part of the decision. I think I would make a great candidate to help make those decisions, especially seeing that I've been driving EV for so long. And I think it does take an EV driver to make the right decision for the future of EV.
And we're talking an EV driver named Andrea Zola, who's running for state representative in the 96th General Assembly District. Another big issue you told me is nuclear energy. And when you mention that, do you mean like there's been a movement to promote more nuclear energy that generations
I have noticed that there are more people talking about nuclear energy. It is something that I'm super passionate about. I'll make it really short. I did join a conference recently in Washington, D.C., which was on nuclear energy security. I could also talk about that for hours. But the reason that I do think the Republican Party will become more interested in nuclear energy in the future is because it would offer us energy security. And I think that's something that both parties should really be talking about right now.
Kenya from Black Corner, Massey says,
Oh,
hey,
hi.
Andrea. And you got,
Hey.
I think you got about 4 hand waves there. If I
Hi,
got
guys.
The right. Well, it's this thing about nuclear energy is, I remember at once it was originally embraced by environmentalists as green energy. In the 70s, they did a 180 and said it's dangerous because there wasn't enough regulation. There were some meltdowns 3 Mile Island. So then it became we stopped building plants, electric plants in a lot of Western countries. And then all of a sudden, again, it's kind of being embraced by everybody again as sort of a alternative
Well, it's
to
also
fossil
good for
fuels.
space exploration, which is so very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's the little kid in me speaking.
So, Angie, are you enjoying campaigning? Is it fun? Do you go on the doors a lot?
It's been an interesting experience. I feel like I've had funny experiences door knocking at during the Alder campaign. And as of right now, just as interesting, it's nice to be able to meet so many different neighbors.
I always see a kind of, I don't know if it's joy, but people light up when they talk about going door to door.
Yeah, it's an experience for
It's kind
sure.
of separate from all the political yelling and the kind of posturing that you just meet people.
Not
and hear
even
what they're
just-
thinking about,
Well, not even just, when it comes to someone knocking on your door and saying, hey, and I've done this, I've been doing it. What concerns you about your neighborhood? Do you have any concerns? They are more than happy to tell me what their concerns are. And that's
Since you
really,
asked, yeah.
that's really, as a politician, how you are going to meet and find a way to help your people. And I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what political party you are a part of. You want to help your people.
People want to be able to pay the bills.
I brought one of these. I'll show you. This is what I've been passing out. How do I, can you guys see that?
Yep.
And I have a little note on the back. So I have my note there. I was knocking last week. It was so fun. Someone opened the door and I gave my little pitch. I said, I'm Andrea Zola. I am your Republican Ward 8 co-chair. I am running for the District 96 seat. And immediately, this woman the same age as me looked at me like, Republican. And very hesitant to have a conversation at first. And then I noticed her glare at the back and read it. And she just went. And I think we had this moment of having this understanding that at the end of the day, we both really want the same thing. And it's important as a political figure for us to have our constituents understand that we're there to work for them. So,
and
yeah.
That was a good story. Can you tell me any other moments on the campaign trail that stick out in your mind is like, this is why I'm running. Inspires me. This shows me the uphill battle.
I don't even think it's an uphill battle. I think one of my most exciting moments was last week when I went to the state capitol, which I thought was going to be super intimidating, which it was a little, I'm not going to lie.
Well, it's such a grand building.
Oh, it's so
I feel
beautiful.
like I can't tell if I'm in Disneyland or sort of
it's
like
so pretty, right?
the U.S. Capitol.
So I show up and I definitely look like a lost puppy at first. And I finally
still do every time I go in the
building.
building.
I make my way up to the meeting room where I was told to be at a specific time. And I walk in and of course, it's a lot of men. There are other women. I was definitely the youngest woman in the room. And someone ran up to me and she said, "You look lost." And, it was an interesting moment just being there, having someone say that. And to me, I thought, oh, no. I don't feel lost. And this is exactly where I should be.
And what was the meeting for?
We were just going over different details. I have my book here. It's the legislative issue book, and it's just to go over data and statistics about what's actually happening, right? And I was in a waiting room recently reading my book and writing notes, and I had someone look at me asking questions, and I responded to him and said, and this is someone who openly told me that they were a Democrat. I said, I'm a Republican. We talked for almost an hour, also agreed on many things, and we talked about how it's important for young people, well, everybody really, but young people and people my age to really focus on the facts, right? You know, I've been trying to not log on to things like Instagram as often because when I'm logging on, I am not receiving facts on what's happening in politics. I'm reading about celebrities who are arguing with politicians, and it is not offering facts. And I think it's really important for people to focus on what's actually happening.
And on the trail, Andrea, you were raising money to participate in the Citizens Election Fund, which is public financing.
Yes.
You needed $6,000, correct?
Yes. So I'm over the halfway point, but the most important thing to focus on is not just the money, right? It has to be from 150 New Haven residents. So today, I am going to buzz around with my treasurer, who's been absolutely amazing, Carlos. We're going to drive to every single Republican's house, and if they're listening, I will be at your house at some point today to knock on their door and ask for that $5 so that I can meet my goal by August 23rd.
August 23rd. You got some time.
And if you see this, whether you're unaffiliated, a Republican, or a Democrat, if you want diversity, and you would like me to have a fair chance against my opponent, even if you're not going to vote for me and you're a New Havener, donate the $5. It's the right thing to do. It will help me achieve the $30,000 that I need to actually campaign, because I don't think people realize this is just the fundraising stage. The campaigning will happen once I receive the grant from the state.
And falls when people kind of pay more attention to the general election.
Of course, 100%.
But it'll be an interesting fall. And we're talking about that with Andrea Zola, running for the 96th General Assembly District C. So that's Worcester Square. Is it Fairhaven?
So it actually
East Rock?
changed. I don't remember the exact date. Like I said, I don't like giving the wrong dates or numbers, but it did change. It was part of Fox and East Haven, which is actually a lot of Republicans. So that was deducted from the district, and it is strictly New Haven. So it is a part of East Rock. It is obviously Worcester Square, where I live and have my brick and mortar business. It's New Haven.
Okay, so let me ask you some issues. I ask everyone who's running for state office. The volatility cap has been talked about a lot. Where we Republicans and Democrats agreed in 2017 that because a lot of our money income tax comes from very wealthy investors in finance people in Fairfield County, it goes up and down a lot.
Of course.
So they wanted some predictability. So they said you can only take a certain amount of that money, and then the rest you have to, if we get a lot in a quarter, because they file quarterly, and the rest has to go to paying down the debt, pension debt, and going into our rainy day fund. Now we've maxed out. We've actually have full amount rainy day fund. We've been paying down the debt. So now a big debate for this upcoming session is whether we should change the rules a little bit to allow more money to be spent. So some people say it's a bad idea. We need the fiscal discipline that's gotten us out of a hole. Other people say when we drew up the rules, we didn't know how much money we're getting in. We got more than we expected. We have more money to keep state colleges open and pay for pre-K staffers. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I have a ton of thoughts. I'm now going for a state seat, so I could talk about this for hours, but I think it's really important to focus on the fact that my party focuses on affordability and accountability. And I think a lot of issues that come into play there is the Democrats want to raise corporate business tax by 11%, which is much too high. And they also want income tax rates to raise by 7%. So we could debate about this for hours. Obviously, we need to be focusing on making things more affordable, not just for one class, but for everybody. And I think that's the most important thing that we can talk about.
Another idea that's going to be up there, it did not pass in the last session, was whether people who are striking after 2 weeks they've been on picket line, can they qualify for unemployment benefits? Any thoughts on that?
Go to work. That's my response.
And then there's
tons of days where I don't want to go to work. I'm tired. We're still living in a VUCA atmosphere. There are distractions happening all around us. And I'm sorry, I have to be myself and give a response. We need to go to work. We have to pay our bills. That's my response.
Ranked choice voting is another issue. You know how that works. You pick for all the people you want in order, and then you eliminate the bottom person, so you feel like you can vote for the person you want most first, but also if it's going to be lesser of two evils, you're able to vote number 2 for someone else. Any thoughts on that?
You know, I haven't done enough research to give a knowledgeable response, so I'm going to pass on that, and I will research it more and send you an email on my opinion.
Yeah, that's fine. Don't speak to a position.
Yeah, I think it's really intelligent to not give responses if I haven't looked into something and have a full accurate opinion, because I don't want to be someone who gives a really quick response and then have it come back to bite me in the butt in 10 years from now. That's how I operate.
I respect that very much.
Yeah, of course.
You know, there's been a lot of talk about the absentee ballot harvesting in Bridgeport. That's been an embarrassment.
Yeah.
2019, people were caught doing that. And then the same people were caught again in 2023, and one was reelected to a post in the Democratic Party. So people wondered, how could this keep going on there? Do you think there's something the state can be doing to stop absentee ballot fraud in places like Bridgeport?
This also goes back to accountability, which the Democratic Party lacks. The Republican Party obviously is the party who focuses on accountability, right? So what we did discuss at the state capitol is different agency failures. So I'm not going to directly talk about which agency failures we discuss, but who's to blame? I don't know. But at this point, I would have to say that it's becoming an agency failure if it keeps happening over and over again. And that's my opinion. A lot of people pointed to the State Elections Enforcement Commission that how did they take years to even put a little fine? Of course.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've had our own city drama too, and that was very public during the last mayoral race. And, you know, I feel like we did see a lot of details in the news about that, which I'll make really short. So it's a very interesting time in politics, and I will focus on what I said about picking my party, which is the Republican Party, which does follow a moral compass, and say that I really do hope that we do not see something happen again like the Bridgeport situation.
Then thanks for that. And then
of course,
abortion is a big issue at the state. Some of the proposals are to enshrine it in the Constitution or have a safe haven law. Should there be a national law banning abortion? Any thoughts on that?
You know, abortion is such a popular topic, obviously, in politics. And I don't know if anyone realizes this. I know people in politics do. But I think it's a way to divide the parties, which I do not like. Obviously, as a woman, I am pro-family. I was married. I was married for a very long time to my ex-husband. We get along very well. Our daughter, Isabel, who is my world, was planned. She's absolutely the best thing to ever happen in my life, which makes me obviously pro-family. But I don't think a lot of young people realize, while they're seeing these news articles with celebrities arguing about abortion, that there's 27% of my party who do not agree with either sides, and they feel like that the government should not be involved. And I would definitely qualify as that percentage. I'm pro-family. That's my focus. My focus is not taking any rights away from women, especially my daughter in the future. And that's where I stand. But I do think it is very important for people to really do their work and read about what is happening and not gain their knowledge from sources like Facebook or Instagram.
Okay.
Of course.
The cannabis, we rolled out legalized marijuana.
Oh, yeah. This has been so entertaining for me to read about.
And they said we're going to set aside some for people who had been arrested for stealing drugs, give them a chance. But then that all kind of fell apart. I think we've had 2 resignations already of the people running the Social Equity Council. How has the rollout gone? Because what's interesting to me, I don't buy cannabis, but I get the sense that you can go to like any store every 2 blocks in the neighborhood and buy cannabis.
No, that's actually not the case. So there's different drinks, like I call them spritzers.
I don't mean legally. I mean smoke shops.
I mean, yeah. I mean, as of right now, I feel like the cannabis regulations are very similar to AI, right? They're so new. There's so much to learn, and there's such a broad future at this point. I think that's the correct terminology, but there's so much for all of us to learn and very little details on the industry, right? But yeah, I do feel like you can go into any smoke shop and purchase a drink that has something like hemp in it, which I think is perfectly fine. You can easily go to, an actual, what are we dispensary. I don't go. I don't use THC, and purchase things in an appropriate manner, which I do think is really important, right? I think it is important for us to regulate it and have an idea of what people are using. So
yeah, I was worried about people. I'm worried about it when it's not regulated. People getting fentanyl.
No, I 100% think it should be regulated without a doubt in my mind. Yeah.
So, public safety is a big concern, Andrea. It was last time you ran, in Worcester Square. So how does that issue come up as a state rep candidate? What are you hearing on the doors, and what would you like to do if elected? What
I'm hearing at the doors is totally different than what I had been focusing on, which I still will focus on. Obviously, cybersecurity, which is my passion, would fall into a public safety topic, right? The main thing that I've been reading about, which I think is super important, is the Democrats passing the Police Accountability Act in 2020, which has caused traffic fatalities to increase just in 1 year by 7.6%. And that was 2020 to 2021. I was watching the news last night, and it's now spiked from 2022 to 2024. And the issue with that is the Police Accountability Act. When the Democrats are taking away different training methods for police officers to do their job correctly, it causes an issue for everybody. And honestly, I feel like it affects the lower income communities more than anybody because they need the most help. And I think that's something that, people should really read about and educate themselves on.
You have any thoughts about, so you live in Worcester Square, you spend a lot of time there, any particular issues in Worcester Square that you could deal with as a state rep?
I mean, that goes back to just what we're talking about alone, right? And I had focused on this during my Ward 8 Alder campaign, which is traffic calming. I just gave you the statistics of how traffic fatalities are increasing rapidly, right? A year and a half ago, my partner and I were in our home on Olive. We're on the corner of Olive and Court. And we witnessed a woman our age who was jogging get completely slammed by a car. I still to this day have no idea what happened to this woman. And it is because there is no traffic calming in the city. And
we have a lot of those speed bumps.
Yeah, but obviously it's not working. And I think it comes back to the Democrats creating the Police Accountability Act that takes away a lot of the training tactics that they need to do their job correctly and make sure that we're living in a secure, safe community. And I do think, I did say this at the debate when you had asked, and I stand by this, I do think Lamar's work on the traffic cameras is a great idea. I definitely think it can help. Will it help? Hopefully. But I do think we need more than just traffic cameras. That's how I feel.
And then in also Ward 8, you were on the committee that created a new monument.
Yes.
When they took away the Christopher Columbus, and they had the tribute to sort of an Italian-American family without a name coming from settling here in the turn of the last century.
Yep.
Tell me, what did you learn from that work?
I said I'm a doer. I loved being on that committee. I come from an Italian-American family with very strong roots in New Haven. I am technically third and fourth generation here. I'm Italian on both sides, like I said, also Irish. And I really had to think about how my grandparents, so Frank and Elvira DeLito, would have approached the situation and what they would have wanted me to do, right? And I've explained this to what I call old timers who still don't agree with the statue being down. And I understand that. I understand why they felt disrespected, and I feel for them. But when I take a moment to stop and think about it, and I visit my grandparents' mausoleum site, once a month, and I always try to do
Really? Once a month?
Yeah, once a month. I always try to do what I think they would find respectable. And I think a lot of the old timers tend to forget that our families came here with nothing. They were blue collar workers. I don't come from a super wealthy family. They were blue collar workers. My grandfather,
Expert stonemasons who built Yale.
Yeah, I just downloaded your book. We talked about that model in the Murder City, where you mentioned my grandfather Frank. They were hard blue collar workers, and being in my grandparents' house often, they were speaking Italian. They would speak broken English most of the time. That still comes out when I'm speaking a little. Something I'm always working on. But I had to think about what they would want me to do. And I know that they would want me to be Americanized, which I am. They did not teach me Italian. They wanted me to be a proud American. And that's exactly what I am. And I was so extremely proud to be on that committee. And I think that the statue is gorgeous. There was so much work that went in, from every single person on the committee. And yeah, it's just something that I'm proud of, and I walk by it every day with my daughter and my dog, and I smile when I see it.
I thought it was a great example of finding a positive solution.
I agree 100%.
To an issue that kind of tore New Haven apart.
Oh, not even just tearing it apart, but like I said, I think that people really need to look at my generation of the Italian American people who are really proud to be American and say, you know what, this is a project that a lot of us worked really hard on, and not only respect the project, but find beauty in the project. And like you said, it was for everybody. So
I felt that way.
Yeah, of course. So do I.
So
it was a fun committee to be on.
Well, it was nice. Do you have a political role model, by the way? And when you say there's a politician, I'd be like...
During the debate, I said which mayor I had really liked. I think if I had to pick a favorite president, it would be Mr. Kennedy, of course. He's I think a favorite for a lot of people. He was also very interested in space exploration and nuclear energy, which I also find very interesting. But if I had to choose a woman right now, it would be Katie Britt, who is a senator in Alabama. I think she's a great role model for women right now. And I look forward to eventually meeting her.
All right.
She's also pro-family.
Well, Andrea DeLito Zola, and I loved your great uncle.
Thank you. And I had a great uncle on my mother's side too, who was a politician. He was a state rep and then a senator.
What was his name?
Barbado. Yeah.
I do remember him too. But
Patrick Barbado.
I didn't know him like I knew Ben.
Well, the DeLitos have this larger than life. I don't know if I would call it a following.
Ben had a common touch.
Yeah, and I think there's so little actually offered to the public about the DeLitos' lives, and I would like to respect that and not tell too many of my family stories, because I do feel like that's what made not only Ben, but my grandfather and our family interesting, right? People write these books and these articles about them, and I think that they're writing them because there's so little that's known, and that's what's made them so interesting, and I'm very proud to be a part of it.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Of course.
And thanks for giving voters a choice.
Of course.
When November comes, they could decide. Here are people who both want to serve our district, and they have some ideas, and
of course
they get to choose. That's what democracy is about.
That's right.
Andrea DeLito Zola, 96th General Assembly Republican candidate. Thanks for joining us. Harry Droz, the best station manager in every multiverse, including here. Thanks for another episode. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience performing I Wish I Knew How It'd Feel to Be Free from the group CD A Plea for Peace. This is Paul Bass inviting you to fly free with us all day and all night long at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.